What's up guys, this is Miasin. So today I wanted to make a quick little video on Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries because recently I made a video on Kashtira Unicorn and I did compare it to Ghost Reaper because obviously the effects are pretty similar. Both of them, they make you kind of look at the opponent's extra deck and make you rip a card from them, except that Ghost Reaper you already have to have the target in your own extra deck, and Kashtira Unicorn you don't really care, you just look at the extra deck and then you choose what card you want to pick. So Ghost Reaper, in other words, it's only really good if you can even fit the targets that you're trying to rip in the first place, and unlike Kashtira Unicorn, you get to rip a bunch of cards at the exact same time. So even if your opponent is trying to play around Kashtira Unicorn by playing maybe 2 copies of one specific card, Ghost Reaper really doesn't care. As a matter of fact, it actually punishes your opponent for doing so because now your opponent has even less cards in the extra deck. But the card is only really good going second when your opponent controls more monsters than you do, so it's not necessarily the kind of card that you're really trying to main deck, although people are main decking the Molchamis, and those cards are also kind of useless if you go first. So perhaps Ghost Reaper could actually be a great consideration in this format. Anyways, before we go into the explanation of any of these applications for the card, I would really appreciate if you could smash the like and the subscribe button real quick. Thank you so much, you're the best, and now let's get right into it. Alright, so like I said, Ghost Reaper only really good going second and post game 1, but you could actually get away with main decking it depending on your strategy and also depending on your extra deck. But anyways, this card is a little dangerous against decks that play the Nemesis engine because you're banishing the monsters that you're obviously revealing face up. It's not like Kashtira Unicorn where you're banishing them face down. So if your opponent plays like a Infernal Flame Banshee, you can search Nemesis flag and then shuffle back whatever your opponent, whatever you banished. And then he can, summon the flag, special summon, and then he can summon the flag and then use its effect to search either the Corridor or the Arch Nemesis Protoss. And from here on out, it's a little rough for you. So this is kind of scary about Ghost Reaper. It's the fact that sometimes it actually completely backfires, and theoretically speaking, if you rip like a 3 of, your opponent could go pot of Acquisitiveness to shuffle all back into the deck and draw a card. Your Ghost Reaper completely backfired because now your opponent went to neg 0 and you went neg 1, but usually it's not gonna happen. These cards are not really seeing too much play except in the Ritual Beast deck, and this one is completely obscure. I have not seen this card since like the Burning Abyss format where people were reapering the opponent's Dante. Anyways, Reaper against the Fiendsmith based strategies. Yeah, this card is extremely good because, again, even against like the Fiendsmith Kashtira Magical Musketeer deck, they usually play like 2 Requiem, 2 DS Erase, so you go Reaper, remove any of these cards permanently, and they're kind of screwed because they don't really play anything to like return back cards from the banished into the deck, so it really will hurt. And you can also Reaper, obviously, the Razor cards, especially if they're played in multiples. That's gonna hurt even more. So multiple duo drives, multiple detonators, that's really nice for you. And against the Malice deck, you can make them lose the White Binder or the Red Ransom because those cards are play starters. However, you will have to watch out because just like against like a Ritual Beast deck, for example, there is a counter to the Ghost Reaper against Malice because they can go into Hearts of Cryptor and then return back a banished card into the deck and also banish a card in the process, so you're almost helping them out. So I'm a little hesitant about Ghost Reaper against the Malice deck. As a matter of fact, I actually don't recommend it. It's not really good, even though those cards, obviously, they won't trigger their effects when they're banished off of Ghost Reaper just because they weren't properly summoned in the first place, so they cannot summon themselves back from the banished. So it technically doesn't help them out, but obviously they can get out of this situation very quickly because of Hearts of Cryptor. Against the Despia deck, this card is not really good just because Lubalion can shuffle back cards from the banished into the deck to fuse, so you pretty much always have to rip Lubalion, which is not the best because it's very easy for them to, like, I guess, full combo without Lubalion. They can just go into, like, I don't know, like the Dark One, or they can go straight into Albion the Sanctifier Dragon, and then they still Gimmick Puppet Nightmare Lock you, quote unquote. They can DD Orthoros Lock you, which is again the exact same thing except that you can summon Fiend monsters. Unless you're playing like the Fiendsmith deck, it doesn't really affect. I mean, it doesn't really change anything. It's still like back to square one. And against the Memento deck, this card can be really good. You can rip 2 cards, so either the Tekutlika Creation King or the Twin Dragon. And finally, against Standby Dragon, usually if all you have is Ghost Reaper and nothing else, and your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you're probably losing anyways, but Ghost Reaper being able to remove the Bite and Dragion is, I guess, the closest thing there is to something that might allow you to survive. Because yes, I do believe that Standby Dragon is still a playable deck post-BANLIST, as crazy as this may sound. Okay, now where Ghost Reaper is extremely broken is when you use it after your opponent already committed to an action. So for example, if you wait until your opponent summons Excite on Night in the Erasial Fiendsmith deck, this is where you Reaper him for the Requiem, and then he already committed to like an Excite on Night that doesn't do anything anymore, so it really hurts. Or same thing with the Moon of the Close Sky, so you make your opponent lose pretty much 2 bodies on the field. And this Ghost Reaper not only makes him so that the Fiendsmith engine is nullified, but also again, he had to like commit to 2 useless bodies, and now he has like a completely irrelevant monster on the field, so that's really good. Ghost Reaper can be played in and against these decks, so the Eraziel deck, the Fiendsmith deck, just because they already have the targets that they're trying to rip. I already mentioned this at the very start of the video. And the Kashtira deck, I guess, can also play a Ghost Reaper very well. Not to mention that it already plays like an inherent built-in Ghost Reaper in the form of Kashtira Unicorn. So the fact that you can really rip every single card from your opponent's extra deck is absolutely filthy. And finally, these decks right here, so Labyrinth, Voiceless Voice, and even, I guess, Pure Fire King, they can play cards like Ghost Reaper very well just because the extra deck space is absolutely not tight. Like, you can easily fit in a bunch of cards that you're really just never going to be summoning, because the Fire King deck changed drastically since the BANLIST, because again, the Snake Eye engine is no longer worth playing in the deck, so you might as well just play it as a pure deck. But yeah, in conclusion, what do I think of Ghost Reaper? I actually think it's a really good card, but again, you really do have to have a game plan with it. You can't just main deck the card and expect it to do well. And I think against the Eraziel Fiendsmith deck very specifically, this card is completely broken. Just because, again, if they commit to like an Excite on Night, even if they have like Engraver or Tract in the hand, if anything, it's actually going to punish them even more, because now you make them lose the Link 1. If they don't have Engraver and they have Tract instead, now they go for Lowkey and then revive back the Lowkey. They only have Lowkey and the Excite on Night on the field, so even if they go for like a sequence, they can't fuse into DSC Ray because they're still missing the Engraver, so they need like 3 freaking monsters, which is really rough. And again, without the Requiem, they also can't do the annoying loop with like the Lacrima to send the trap card, which also interrupts you on your turn. So honestly, Ghost Reapering the Requiem is gonna absolutely save you against that deck. It is very good, really, trust me on that one, I absolutely recommend. But against the other decks, I don't really think it's worth it, so it's really only good against Fiendsmith cards and Eraziel cards. And even then, against Eraziel cards, I think Kashtira Unicorn is a little better, just because Dual Drive is slowly but surely seeing, I mean, it's being cut to like 1 copy. So if you can Unicorn banish this, and then Ghost Reaper banish something else, then you're definitely in a good position. And also, again, against the Kashtira Fiendsmith deck, Unicorn to banish the Link 1 is going to be absolutely nasty, especially if you wait until they go, okay, normal summon a magical musketeer monster, go into max, and then you Reaper the Requiem, and then they, again, committed to like a magical musketeer monster going first that doesn't do anything at all, and you're really hurting them at this point. So yeah, again, Ghost Reaper, very nice card. And you should actually try it out if you haven't already, because I've tested it a little bit, and it was actually decent for me. But yeah, that's it for this video right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries this format, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.